You're not broken, you're not doing it wrong, you're not an idiot, you're just in a process. This video is going to be titled something to the effect of how self-improvement ruined my life, or the self-improvement conundrum, I'm not sure. But we're talking about the paradox of self-improvement and how, ironically, when you step onto a path of self-improvement, or call it what you want, like a spiritual journey, or just having a realization that you're not fully content with your life as it is, and so you start to take action to change it.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped. Let's let the healing begin.
To be honest, my life wasn't bad before self-improvement. I had a pretty cushy life living in the city, working a regular job in a bar, making good money. I had an incredible social life. I was out and about every day doing all sorts of things. There wasn't really anything wrong with my life. But the reason that I ended up ultimately changing my life was because I was missing something. I had all of my basic needs met and my social needs met, but I just felt like there was something more that I wasn't tapping into. And I said to myself, well, I could continue living this life for say like 5 more years or something, but ultimately I'm gonna give it up because it's not what I want my life experience to be all of the time. And so I had a distinct moment of realization one day where I was like, I need to stop doing this and I need to start doing more things that actually interest me with regards to business and artistry and all of that stuff. So the way that manifested for me was like this. I quit my job because my visa was up, so I couldn't work anymore. I was living in Vancouver at the time, but I had met a friend a couple of years before, and I randomly bumped into her on the street one day, and she told me about this island that she was going to live on, and that there was a yoga center there and that I could volunteer there if I wanted to. So I was like, okay, that sounds like a terrible idea. And so I didn't bother doing anything about it. But then one day I kind of got curious and I was like, maybe I should check it out. My visa was up. I didn't want to leave the country as such, but I couldn't work. So I was like, well, what can I do? And this seemed like it might be an appropriate fit. So I went onto their website and sent them an email. Then a few days later, I had an interview with them via video call, and they invited me to come and hang out there for the summer. And so that's what I did. But the thing is, over there, it was a completely different way of living than what I'd experienced in the city. There was a very slow pace of life. People were all into organic farming, yoga, swimming naked, all of these things that weren't as prominent in the city. Now, this is really tricky because I've just gone from a life of socializing, gossiping, drinking lots of beer, and having lots of money to this new life of going to bed very early, sleeping in a tent in the forest, talking about God and other such spiritual notions. And people aren't really into partying. They drink kombucha there. They do yoga. They don't, go out and smoke cigarettes. So it was kind of like a dichotomy from what I experienced. And obviously, if you drop something like alcohol, gossip, and all of these low vibrational things, you could say, or toxic things maybe is a better word for some people, it's going to be pretty difficult to integrate and assimilate into this new way of living. Because it's like, at the time I was 23, so I'd lived most of my life up until that point with these sort of, negative toxic traits. And then I was around people that were actually consciously trying to reverse those traits and bring more positivity into the world. You could almost say it's like a rebirth, which is obviously a very daunting thing to go through. So this is the thing about getting onto your self-improvement journey. It's gonna suck initially because you're comfortable with the things that you've been doing. And then when something comes and shakes it all up, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I need to reinvent myself. I need to relearn things. I need to let old parts of myself die in order to allow new parts of myself to flourish. And that's really confusing. Some people never get to the point where it's bad enough, or they're just not content, where they decide, okay, I'm actually going to make a difference. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to get up earlier. I'm going to stop jerking off 4 times a day. I'm going to actually talk to new people and not just stay with the same people that I have known for the last 20 years or whatever. And now the other thing is that once you've stepped on a journey, you've got to remember that there's people in your life that aren't on that journey, right? So those people are either going to stick around or they're going to fall away. And it hurts when people fall away. It hurts when you realize that the people that you've known and spoken to so regularly for so long just don't really resonate with you anymore. They're not serving you, you're not serving them. Because when you hang out, they still want to do this, but you want to do that. And that's not going to work long term. But the mind is like,
oh, but they're my friend from school, I gotta hang on to them.
well, actually, no, they're just your friend from school and you don't have to hang on to them. But it hurts to realize that you might need to let go. You might think you're a bad person. They might think you're a bad person. But the truth is, if you want to continue on this journey of self-improvement, if you want to continue self-actualizing and making positive change in your life, you have to be willing to sever ties. You don't have to be a dick about it, but you need to do it. Whatever that might look like. Tell them that you're prioritizing other endeavors and you're not willing to go and do that thing today. If you do that enough times, they'll just stop texting you. They just won't want to talk to you. You don't have to have a formal, sorry, we're breaking up, but just let it organically happen. Live your life, be honest with yourself, be honest with people, and they'll get the message. And you're going to get tested like this all the time. Like when I was living on that island in the yoga center, I decided to go back to the city for a weekend for a festival. And when I got off the boat onto the mainland, I was absolutely shocked and overwhelmed by the amount of people, by all of the transport, all of the cars, buses, the fact that nobody was communicating with anybody. Everybody had their earpods in and were on their phone, and it was just weird because I was coming from this island that pretty much had no signal. They are completely different worlds. Now, when I moved back to Ireland from Canada, which is where I was on that island, I was then faced with my parents, my family, and all old school friends and everything, and my old town and all of this stuff, right? And that was really difficult because I just went into this depressive slump. I didn't feel understood. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel like I could connect with anybody. And I was so dead set on telling everybody about all of these wonderful things I'd learned about. But the truth is, nobody really cared. Not because they didn't like me or they didn't like the ideas. They just weren't interested in changing their lives in the way that I was interested in changing mine. And that's fine. But our mind doesn't think that's fine a lot of the time. And we start to blame other people for how we are feeling because we're struggling with the integration of our new self. And then we need to assimilate into these spaces, but we need to do that with the integrity of the vision that we have for ourselves going forward. So maybe that means you don't hang out with the same people. Maybe that means you don't do the same things. Maybe that means you do new things instead. Maybe you eat different. Maybe you eat in different places. You're probably going to have to do a lot of stuff by yourself. But the beauty is that that's how you're going to meet more people that are actually on your vibe, that are actually on the same trajectory as you. I've done this myself in my hometown. I just go to random places by myself and I often meet new friends. And I've got friends now for years that I've actually met through this same process of just going places. It's beautiful because then you start going to places together and then you meet other random people. And then you all start going to places together. And before you know it, you have a community of people that are actually committed to a similar way of living as you. Self-improvement will ruin your life at first because it's effectively killing an old version of you. When you start to walk that path, you're all alone. There's no two ways about it. Like you're a loner and people don't get you. People think you're a weirdo. But that's part of the process because you need to get ostracized in a sense so that you can find your new tribe. And so it's like an ebb and flow. It's like, an up and a down type thing. In your whole life, you're going up, you're going up, you're going up. Then you hit this plateau and you're like, oh, I'm doing okay financially. I've got cool friends. We hang out, we talk about stuff, we go snowboarding, whatever. But I've been just cruising here for a little while and I'd like to go higher. But the thing is, this version of you can't go any higher than that. And that's when you need to disassemble certain parts of yourself. And that's when you crash, right? But then after some time, after some patience and perseverance, you will launch even further beyond that plateau. But you got to go through the suck. You got to go through the dip. You got to go through the bear market. If you're into investing, you'll know what that means. Nothing goes up in a straight line. Any grand return comes over a sustained amount of time. But you got to keep on investing your energy into the right things for you to ultimately continue on upwards. So at the beginning of this video, I said that you're not broken, you're not doing it wrong, you're not stupid, you're in a process. That's what I've been speaking about, is all of that. The reason you decide to take action to change your life, that's the beginning of the process. And then your life starts changing. That's also part of the process. Things get better for a little while as you connect with new people. Cool. That's part of the process as well. But then there's other aspects of your life. Like, your life is a huge web, right? There's so many people involved. Depending on like how adventurous you've been in your life, you might know a lot of people in a lot of different places, and they're all going to have different attitudes and different values. So as you start to refine the people in your life and the habits and activities in your life, then you'll start to come to a new baseline, right? And that baseline is going to take time to get to. And you're going to often dip below it at the beginning as you start to build up that potential within you to reach the new highs. And this happens on so many levels. It happens on the level of friendship. It happens on the level of nutrition and exercise. It happens on the level of business or work. A lot of people, they go from working a 9 to 5 for somebody else to starting their own business. And a lot of people that get on this sort of self-improvement thing, they often go into like coaching or yoga teaching or something like that. And I did that myself. Like, I went into facilitating yoga and mindfulness workshops and classes, and that was cool. And I learned a lot from that, and I started creating content, and all of it failed. It didn't work out. I was not financially independent. I was living with my parents. I eventually got depressed and just left the country again, which was the next phase of my process. And then I came back and I gave it another stab. And with that foundation that I had built in the previous year, I now understood better what doesn't work, how to deal with people differently, how to, share my message with people. And it's a constant journey of refinement. It's a constant process, and I don't believe that anybody is ever going to get to the end of that process. So if it sucks right now, good job. You're doing it right. If it sucks tomorrow, great, cool. Just know that at some point, if you persist, if you maintain discipline, and if you maintain that vision in your mind and take action that's aligned with that vision, you're bound to succeed. It's a process that's never going to end. So stop worrying about reaching the tip of the mountain, because when you do, you're going to see another peak. Self-improvement will definitely ruin your life at times, but on the net, it is always going to be positive. My friend, I believe in you, and I hope you believe in you too. Check out this video to see how traveling ruined my life, and I'll catch you in the next one.